Okay, now we're recording, so you guys can see this. All right, yeah, so I'm gonna go over different types of birds that you might see in your backyard this weekend, the most common ones, as well as birds that are easily mistaken for each other, as well as some rare sightings. At any point, please just let me know if you have questions. Feel free to just ask them out or say, hey, Alexis, just pause and and I will happily talk to you about whatever questions you have. Let's see. So first, a little bit about the Coastal and Heartland National Estuary Partnership, or CHNEP. We were formed in 1995 when Congress designated estuaries and their watersheds from the Donna Bay and to Estero Bay in Southwest Florida as estuaries of national significance in the United States. This was done by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in creating the National Estuary Program. We're one of 4 NEP organizations in Florida. The other are found in Tampa Bay, Sarasota Bay, and oh my goodness, Indian River Lagoon on the East Coast. There are 28 national estuary programs throughout the country. And as such, we receive annual federal funding from Congress to assist in the protection and restoration of water resources and wildlife habitat in the CHNEP area. The CHNEP area covers over 5,000 square miles, which is really big. So we go from Polk County all the way down to Collier County. We cover 6 estuaries, which would be Lemon Bay, Donna and Roberts Bay, Charlotte Harbor, Pine Island Sound, the Caloosahatchee, San Carlos Bay, and Estero Bay, as well as 4 rivers, which are the Myakka River, Peace River, Caloosahatchee, and Estero. Overall, we cover 10 counties and 25 cities. And we really, we really are one of the largest national estuary programs in the country. It's pretty impressive. We're also unique in that we go from the coastline all the way to the interior of Florida with Lake Okeechobee to protect and preserve water. We are a grassroots and community-driven organization, meaning that we work with the public to further protection and restoration of our estuaries. We have an advisory board made up entirely of volunteers who represent the public, called the Citizens Advisory Board. It's open to anyone who would like to join. So if you're ever interested in joining our CAC, just let me know. We have a large team of volunteers who help us with education, research, and restoration projects. These include seagrass surveys, oyster reef restoration, horseshoe crab surveys, and many more. Technically, we could consider you all volunteers for us today and helping, or this weekend, and helping out with the backyard bird count. So CHNEP exemplifies the power of partnerships, as we are a public-private partnership that is science and consensus-based. We are non-regulatory and we're citizen-supported. So because of private and non-federal governmental contributions, volunteers, and donated in-kind services, we're able to provide $19 of restoration for every federal dollar that we receive. All of our work supports our collective comprehensive conservation and management plan, the 5-year organizational strategic plan collectively drafted by all of our partners. The CCMP has 4 action plans focusing on water quality improvement, hydrological restoration, fish, wildlife, and habitat protection, and public engagement. Our CCMP is an excellent resource and reference material on natural resources and resource management in our area. So that's a little bit about us, and now we can move on to the bird count. There's also a bird count that happens in December called the Christmas bird count. Both of these are put on by Audubon, and it is the largest citizen science initiative in the country. The one that you'll be participating in this week is neat because it's all done where you live. The Christmas bird count, you get designated spots that you have to go out to, but this one really is all about community science because you are in your own backyard. And with COVID, we're fortunate enough that this dovetails perfectly in because you can be socially distanced and don't really need to even leave your house. So in doing this count, you're participating in the really cool initiative of community science or citizen science. So over a century ago, Audubon pioneered the idea of community science with its first Christmas bird count. These studies shape and inform Audubon's approach to conservation, providing vital information about bird populations and trends. Data that alerts us to environmental threats, not only to birds, but to the larger ecosystems we all depend on. As partners with the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and Ebird.org, Audubon has helped transform community science into an everyday activity for tens of thousands of birders. Your observations, reported online anytime and from anywhere throughout North America, provide an ongoing assessment of bird populations that is fast becoming an invaluable resource for conservation. Citizen science has the added benefits of increasing environmental awareness and can lead to increased support for conservation efforts. So people feel connected to these projects and they foster a greater understanding of our current environmental issues. It's been shown time and again that if you actually participate in conservation, you'll be more likely to understand the greater need for this science. And it gives you ownership over of the stewardship that you're taking part in. Okay, so for the backyard bird count in 2020, 268,674 people participated in 194 countries. One of our participants here today was saying how I believe her granddaughter was in Scotland, and so they're doing this across the world together this weekend, which is just really, really cool. The overall guidelines for this is to watch birds for 15 minutes. That's all you need to do. You can watch them for longer, but as long as it's done between now and February 15th, then you can add to the backyard bird count data. So I am going to show you a quick video from Audubon. I have to switch how I'm sharing. So 1 second. We will switch over to this video. All right. Can you guys see the big black screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Did you know that there's an easy way to help the birds you see every day? That you can help scientists better understand birds in as little as 15 minutes by simply counting the birds you see every day? And that your bird sightings can help answer questions about climate change, weather events, and the environment? Join hundreds of thousands of bird lovers of all ages and participate in the Great Backyard Bird Count, a free and fun event that takes place over the third weekend in February. Birds help us understand the health of the environment around us. And by counting the birds you see in your corner of the world, you can help create a real-time snapshot of global bird populations. Each checklist submitted during the Great Backyard Bird Count helps researchers learn more about how birds are doing and how to protect them and the environment we share. The Great Backyard Bird Count is a global event with hundreds of thousands of checklists submitted by birdwatchers from more than 100 countries. Want to get involved? Head over to birdcount.org to learn how you can take part and to check out resources to help you count your local birds. Did you know that there's an
All right, I will switch back to our presentation.
easy way to help the birds?
And I can't get this up. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, we are good. All right, so there's two different options for how you can, actually 3 different options for how you can upload your bird sightings for the backyard bird count. The first is with the Merlin app. This is probably, if you are not very familiar with birds, they make it very, very simple. You download the app, you open an account with them, and then you can start entering your data. So the first thing that you do is choose your location. So I'm assuming most of us are in Southwest Florida. Maybe we're further away. And enter the date of your sighting. So you can do this for one day, you can do this for multiple days, however often you would like to enter data over the next few days until the 15th. And then you answer 3 questions based on the bird that you're looking at. And it really does start off with very basic, like, is this a blue bird, a red bird, a white bird? And we'll get more specific from there. It'll do a best guess, and then you can choose that as your bird. And once you do that, you're done. It enters your data. It's very, very simple. The other option is you can go to birdcount.org and enter it manually from your computer. And the last way is through Ebird. So this is if you are a little bit more familiar with the birds you're seeing. You can have a very robust bird list to add if you want. So there's a quick little video on this. Do you guys have any questions up until this point? Okay. All right. And now let me switch over for this video. Okay. So this one is a little bit more in depth than the Merlin Bird app. So that's why I wanted to show you a video, is just so you get a nice visual representation of using the Merlin app, or sorry, the Ebird app.
With eBird Mobile, birding has never been easier. This free mobile app works anywhere in the world, helping you quickly enter checklists while keeping track of your exact birding route, letting you just enjoy the birds. When you first install the app, you'll need to download a pack of information on what birds are expected in your region. Bird packs let you get a precise list of birds for your area regardless of your internet connection. The app will suggest the best pack based on where you are, and you can download other packs through settings at any time. Now you're ready to start birding. Typically, you'll be entering a checklist in real time, so the app knows the date and time you're starting. I want to record my track, so I'll leave that on. Tracking is a great feature that allows eBird to fill in where you're birding, how far you travel, and how long you're birding for. It keeps track so you don't have to. All right, you're all set. Now click Start Checklist. When you start a checklist, eBird uses your current GPS location and your bird packs to provide a list of expected species that are likely to be in that area at that time of year. You'll fill in this checklist as you go. Once you've found a bird you know, by sight or sound, the fastest way to add it is to type right here in the quick entry bar. Let's start with 2 mallards out on the pond. Type the number of birds, 2, and the species, mallard. Then select the species from the checklist, and you're all set. It's that easy. Let's enter a few more sightings the same way. There's 5 Canada geese foraging in the grass. Sounds like there's a red-tailed hawk calling nearby. And there's an osprey eating a fish. And a great blue heron flying overhead. You can see all the birds you've already tallied by switching to the checked view. This is particularly helpful for adding more sightings to a species. For example, you see 3 more mallards. Tap the number 3 times and you're all set. You'll notice some birds have these icons next to their names. These show whether a bird is infrequently reported or unreported for that region and time of year. By tapping a species name, you can make changes to your tally or add comments about the bird's field marks, its behavior, the habitat you saw it in, or anything else you find interesting. This is especially important for those rare and unusual sightings. You can see where you've been by clicking here to review your track. When you're finished birding, tap Stop. If you have an active track, Ebird will ask you if you're done birding. Tap Stop Track to confirm. Now it's time to review your checklist. The first thing you'll need to do is add your location. The best way to do this is to use the map. It's important to choose a location that accurately represents where you were birding. You can either choose an appropriate existing location or create a new location by tapping on the map. In this case, you are birding at Sapsucker Woods, so choose that location. Next is info about your birding outing. This is what makes eBird tracking great. Tracking has already defined your checklist type based on whether you were moving or stationary. Tracking also fills in the duration and distance traveled. You can change your checklist type and edit the other fields if you need to. Before you can submit, eBird asks if you're submitting a complete checklist of the birds you were able to identify. Complete checklists are eBird's way of knowing you've identified and reported all of the birds you saw or heard to the best of your ability. It's not possible to detect every single bird. Nobody can do that. As long as you've listed all of the species you could identify, then check yes. You can also enter comments about your birding experience. You can document the weather, other animals you saw, or any other fun memories. Last, but not least, you can review the species you reported. When you're ready, click Submit. Congratulations, you're an eBirder. You're now part of the largest birding community in the world.
Complicated.
Great, so that's why I wanted to show that one to you all, is because it's a little bit more involved than the Merlin Bird app. But it is nice that you can download different bird packs based on your location. So if you happen to be a snowbird, you can have the bird pack for Florida and then the bird pack for wherever else you might be from. Do you guys have any questions on that one?
Alexis, is there any way to review that after the Zoom today, that same video? Okay,
Absolutely. I'll send a follow-up email with some links and I will include this one as well. So you guys can watch it as many times as you would like.
super, thank you.
Great. So next we're going to cover some of the different birds you might see this weekend or at any time. Excuse me. Some things to keep in mind when trying to determine which bird you're seeing is to really look at what the bird looks like and what they're doing. So for their physical description, look at their size and shape. The shape of their heads, eye placement, and bills can all be good determinants in which bird you're seeing. Also, their wings and feet can differentiate between some that look very similar. Color is another good one and probably the easiest to distinguish. When you enter data in the app on the Merlin app, it starts off by asking you what color the bird is and then narrows it down from there. So behavior is another way to identify birds. How they're behaving in the environment can help ID them. Are they flying, perching, on the ground, waiting? The location of where they are, say in a tree or on the ground, can give you a head start in figuring out which species you're looking at. Calls are another way to ID birds. So sometimes you can't see the bird, but you can hear them. Catbirds are a great example of this. They're seasonal birds and they blend in pretty well into the bushes, but their call is very distinct. So there's no question that it's a catbird. Surprised it sounds like a cat yowling. And finally, habitat. So birds have their own niches in the environment. So you have an idea of whether you're looking at a shorebird or a hawk based on where you are. And while species aren't restricted to these habitats 100%, for example, you wouldn't expect to see a mockingbird wading in a seagrass flat. So that will help you identify birds as well. So here are some of the most common birds that you're likely to see, especially if you have a bird feeder. Cardinals, at least the males, are pretty hard to miss. Their fiery red feathers make them easy to spot. And even for the females, which are mostly brown, they do have a reddish tinge with an orange beak. So they are all over Florida bird feeders. They're very common. Blue jays are another vibrant bird, and they're very noisy. So these guys can also mimic other bird calls. I've seen the ones in my yard make hawk sounds to scare all the other birds away from the feeder, so they have it all to themselves. Doves in the bottom corner are extremely common. We have both mourning doves and ring-necked doves. So mourning doves are like the one in the photo with little black dots on their wings. And ringnecks have a black ring around their neck. Thrashers and grackles, the little guys in the middle, are also common around here. They're both brown, but thrashers have a distinct behavior of thrashing leaf litter around when they're looking for insects to eat. There are a number of woodpeckers, but the most common that you'll see probably around your backyard or bird feeder would be the red-bellied woodpecker and the pileated woodpecker. Pileated woodpeckers are pretty large, and in mating season, they can be heard pounding away on roofs, gutters, anything that makes noise. I'll talk a little bit more about the woodpeckers, excuse me, because while the guy in the top photo is called a red-bellied woodpecker, he does have a red head. They all have red heads. So it gets a little confusing when you have a red-headed woodpecker, and then this one also has a red head. So we'll talk some more about that. Lastly, while I can almost guarantee you won't see any screech owls on your count, they are pretty common in this area at night. They're masters of camouflage, but they're one of the birds that you will hear before you see. So if you happen to be doing your bird count in the evening, and you can hear their very distinct calls, you can include them on your bird count. So next up is commonly confused birds in our area. So a lot of our birds, our wading birds, look very similar to each other. So if you happen to be doing your bird count out on the shoreline, you'll probably run into these guys. So the first off are the snowy egrets and the great egrets. So these are in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Really the best way to determine the difference between these two, because they are found in similar habitats, would be looking at the color of their legs and their size. So snowy egrets are going to be much smaller in size and have yellow feet and legs. The great egrets are much bigger and have black legs. And just to confuse you guys even more, there's another guy called a little blue heron, and there can be a white morph of this one. So while he's called a little blue, he can have white feathers. And there is a bluish tinge to his face. So that's also how you would determine which one is which. Yellow crowned night herons and black crowned night herons are also found in similar habitats. And the best way to determine these guys apart is that the yellow crowned night heron is more of a gray color. So that photo just to the top right, he's the one on the left. So he's got a much grayer face, whereas the black crowned night heron has that big black stripe through his face. The black crowned night herons are also found on shorelines. So they're great hunters of grouse crabs. So you would see them on the beaches. Little blue herons, I talked about how there's a white morph for that guy. They really do have a purple gray head. He's the one on the left at the bottom. And the tricolor herons, they have that very similar blue purple color, but they have yellow around the skin on their face, so around their eyes. So that's a really good way to determine the difference between those two. So the red-shouldered hawk and the red-tailed hawk. I am notorious for getting these guys confused. I'll be like, I know it's that one, but I don't know which one it is. So the red-shouldered hawk, they have very heavy banding on their chest and their tail, whereas the red-tailed hawk is a lighter color, and you'll most likely see them up in a tree or flying by. In Southwest Florida, the red-tailed hawk is much more common than the red-shouldered one. And also the red-shouldered is bigger than the red-tailed. So some more commonly confused birds. The anhinga versus the cormorant. Again, this is another case of they're in the same habitat and they do the same behavior where they'll sit on banks or trees with their wings out and sun themselves, so to dry out their wings. Really the best way to determine the difference between these guys is that the cormorant has a hooked bill and the anhinga has a smooth bill. If you have a good pair of binoculars, you can see that. Also, anhingas tend to have much more white feathers in their wings. So when they're sunning themselves, if you see a bird that's got more white in it, then that would be an anhinga. They're also bigger than cormorants. I talked about the woodpeckers. So the red-bellied woodpecker, which is the little one with the red head on the left, is the most common one around here, compared to the red-headed woodpecker, which is the one on the right. So you can see that there's definitely a difference between the red heads, even though they both have red heads. It would be rare to see a red-headed woodpecker in your location of along the coastline, like Port Charlotte, Fort Myers. They're definitely more in the interior of Florida, and they're pretty rare to begin with due to habitat destruction and pine beetles destroying the trees that they need to live. We also have the pileated woodpeckers, which are the really big ones, and downy woodpeckers, which are very tiny little guys. They have a little bit of red on them. They mostly have black spots on them. So they really are tiny little guys compared to all the other woodpeckers that we have around here. Next would be the turkey vulture versus the black vulture. Both of these guys you'll either see kind of on the side of the road eating roadkill or circling in the air currents pretty high up. And the best way to determine these guys apart is the color of their head. So turkey vultures tend to have the red head and black vultures will have a black head. And finally, the eagle versus the osprey. These guys also inhabit similar habitats. And juvenile bald eagles can look a lot like ospreys. They don't have that dark body with the white head yet, so they're kind of a mottled color like the osprey. But really, the ospreys have these very, very white chests, especially if they're circling or perched. You can get a good look at that. Whereas bald eagles would be either completely solid or much more brown. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Went a little too far. Okay. Any questions, guys, on birds so far? Okay. So these guys would be really special to see. And depending on where you are, you might have a better chance of seeing them. So Southwest Florida really is a birder's paradise. We have an excellent coastline. We have migratory species that come through from South America. And then when you go inland, you can, like around Lake Okeechobee, the Everglades, you can get even more sightings for birds. So while these are rare, it's not unheard of for you to maybe encounter them. Swallowtail kites, the one in the lower left-hand corner with the black wingtips. They're a migratory species from South America, and they're distinguished by their scissor-shaped tail. They also are master gliders. You really will rarely see them flapping their wings. They just hit all the air currents perfectly and use that tail kind of like a rudder to glide beautifully through the air. They have a wingspan of 47 to 54 inches, so they are pretty big birds. And they spend the spring and summer in Florida. And we actually just had the first sighting of the year at Corkscrew Swamp. So they are making their way back from South America right now.
Okay.
Snail kites, the one in the middle on the right-hand side, they're also a migratory species from South America. But they're found in freshwater marshes, and Florida is the only state in the United States where these guys can be year-round residents. They like habitats with extensive stands of sawgrass and cattails, so the Everglades are perfect. They feed exclusively on apple snails. So I don't know if you can really tell from this picture, but they have this great hook in their beak, and they use that to eat those snails. They breed most commonly south of Orlando. So there's good concentrations of them around Kissimmee and Lake Okeechobee and the Northern Everglades. They're really beautiful birds. I've never seen one. Maybe like driving by Alligator Alley in the distance, I was like, maybe that was a snail kite. But if you ever happen to be out hiking in those areas, be on the lookout for them. Limpkins, so in the top, in the upper right-hand corner, these guys are often mistaken for juvenile ibis, which ibis are the white birds that kind of hang out in little flocks and in people's front yards. A lot of people mistake limpkins for the juvenile ones of those because they have the brown feathers in that mottled appearance. Limpkins only breed in Florida in the United States. So they're found in freshwater marshes and cypress swamps. So if you go out to say Corkscrew or other areas like that for hiking, you have a good chance of running into them too. Mangrove cuckoos, so the bottom right-hand corner, they were once thought to be entirely migratory, but scientists are starting to think that they are year-round residents in Florida now. So these are the ones that infamously leave their eggs in other birds' nests for the other birds to raise. And I've never seen one of these, but Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge has a good track record of sightings of these guys. So they're really interesting. Burrowing owls are another species that we're fortunate to have locally. So the little guy in the very top on the left. If you happen to be in the Cape Coral or Marco Island area, they have very well established populations there. They really thrive in empty lots in residential areas. And unlike most owls, they make their homes in burrows underground. So these burrows are great because they're considered ecosystem engineers. In creating that burrow, other animals can move in after the owls have moved out. It's also an escape area for natural fires or prescribed burns. Animals will go, like snakes and stuff, will go into these burrows during fires to survive them. But the burrowing owls, they always look grumpy. They're the cutest little things. And there's also members in the populations around here with black eyes. Most burrowing owls have the yellow eyes, but scientists are noticing that there's a good section of the population that has entirely black eyes, which is a weird genetic quirk, but really interesting. So if you happen to be in Cape Coral or Marco Island, you can literally just drive around the neighborhoods and they are right there on the side of the road. They're really cool. Finally, scrub jays. So the guy on the bottom row in the middle. So Florida scrub jays are the only endemic bird to Florida. So that means that they're found in no other state, in no other country, just Florida. They're very intelligent, like all jays, and they can be found mostly between Sarasota and Fort Myers. Oscar Scherer State Park has a great population of them. And there's actually been a push for years to make scrub jays our state bird because they are found nowhere else. Does anybody know what the state bird of Florida currently is?
Mockingbird.
Right. Yep. It's the mockingbird, which I think like 5 other states have it as their state bird too. So I'm in full support of making the scrub jay our state bird. So ways that you can help our bird friends and attract them to your backyards. Feeders are a great way. Some people have issues with putting out bird feeders, but I think that as long as you do it safely, like maybe not in an area where there's a feral cat population, you'll be good. Providing water, especially in Florida summers, having a water source for birds is a great way to do that. I found that in my yard, I had to strategically place it because it would turn into a bathtub and be too hot for them. So maybe a shaded area would be best for the bird waterer. Planting native plants not only helps native birds, but butterfly species as well. And planting different heights of plants, say like you have the trees and you have like middle-sized ones and you have shrubs. This creates almost like a habitat effect in your own backyard. So you'll have a greater population of birds that could hang out in your yard and feel safe. Let's see, discontinuing pesticides and rodenticides. There's lots of other options to deal with, say, rats or pests on your plants. And it's actually really interesting. Thanks to the Christmas bird count, scientists were able to document the decline of hawks on Sanibel Island, most likely due to rat poison. They saw a huge drop off in hawk populations on the island, and they were able to tie that to the use of rat poisons. They really have a high kill rate for non-target animals. So bobcats, owls, hawks, they really do a number on the populations for those animals, and they're not the target. And then one really good rule that I was told by a master gardener years ago was the back 10 feet rule. So taking the back 10 feet of your yard on the property line and making that just filled with plants allows birds habitat to make nests in, forage in, hide in, and also allows our other native species a safe corridor to travel through our yards. And we did that in our own yard, and we've seen a huge increase in the number of wildlife, of possums and raccoons and birds that use that as a little highway back there. So if you want more information about that, I can provide that as well. So some other fun bird activities that you guys might be interested in is joining your local Audubon Society. So these are all over the country. No matter where you live, there's going to be a local Audubon. And they're always a great resource for bird information, doing socially distanced hikes, doing presentations. So really, they would be a great first source if you want to learn more about birds in your area. If you would prefer to stay at home in these pandemic times, there's also really cool osprey and eagle cams. The local eagle cam in North Fort Myers is like world famous. I have family in Australia and they watch it. So they're a great thing that you can do online. And I know that they have 2 chicks right now. So if you want to see some adorable little eagle chicks, go to the Southwest Florida Eagle Cam. There's also osprey cams up on Captiva. And then the Avian Research Conservation Institute, they have a really cool website where you can track swallowtail kite migration. So they put little tracking devices on the swallowtail kites, and you can watch them hang out in South America and then start their migration up to Florida and see where they go. So that's also really fun to check out online. And really my favorite thing to do for looking for birds is getting out and hiking. Florida has the Great Florida Birding Trail. So we have an entire trail that goes the state of Florida that is dedicated to our awesome birds. So depending on where you are, you're not too far from a section of the Great Florida Birding Trail. So definitely check that out. And then locally in our area, we have the Myakka River State Forest, Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge, Corkscrew Swamp, and the Everglades. And all of these are so diverse habitats that it's not like you're going to be seeing the same birds over and over again. You can definitely diversify what you see by choosing different locations to go hiking. And then if you want to learn more, Audubon and Sibley have wonderful guides. They're kind of like the birding Bibles. So I would check out those. They have one specifically for Florida, one specifically for bird behavior. Really, however far you want to get into this, they'll have something for you. And the Merlin and Cornell apps, those are really good ways. So you have it right on your phone to help you identify birds and learn more about them. And then Ebird and iNaturalist are great apps for contributing to citizen science, which you guys are going to be doing this weekend, which is so much fun. Do you guys have any questions?
We just saw a female hummingbird the other day, just a single one.
Oh my God.
Are they unusual this time of year down here?
So this is about the time where hummingbirds they'll migrate through. So usually between February and say April, they're around here. I've only seen like one, and it's here every March in our neighbor's backyard. So yeah, they'll start coming through about this time. So they're migratory, and it's pretty lucky to see them. So good job.
You didn't hang around, or she didn't.
That's wonderful. How exciting. Okay. Well, next month we will be doing, for World Water Day, we'll be doing a virtual Earth Echo Water Challenge. We'll be providing people with water quality testing kits that they can pick up and participate in this worldwide water quality testing challenge. So if you guys are interested in that, I'll be putting more information out about that, as well as sending an email out this afternoon. Other opportunities in our area, there are seagrass surveys as well as horseshoe crab surveys. So if you guys are interested in those as well, please let me know. Jennifer, did you have a question?
No, but I just thought that you all might be interested to know that my mom lives right around the corner from me. I don't know if you can see this. She's got a pasture behind her house, and there's a family of bald eagles.
Oh,
And she's become one of the official observers for the Fish and Wildlife Commission.
Oh, that's so cool.
The baby is about 8 weeks old right now, and just last week they think that the juvenile that they raised last year had tried to return to the nest.
Oh no.
And because they had a baby, mom and dad ran him off.
Oh,
and
my.
he's got to go forage on his own right now, but so we get daily pictures. She's out there almost every day.
That is a wonderful.
We don't know how many eggs they had, but we do know that they have had the one baby survive.
Oh my gosh, that's excellent. What a cool thing to have in your backyard.
Yeah, so I just thought everybody would like to see that, because we're super excited, as you can imagine.
Absolutely. Oh my, and that's a beautiful photo. That is excellent.
She started photography a couple years ago and has got a friend who's a professional. So anyway.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. That's just great.
That's one of the reasons I'm so excited to start. We're in Hendry County. We're in LaBelle, between Fort Myers and Clewiston.
Yep. That's great. I just got a question. Are there eagles in Charlotte County? Yes, absolutely. I'm not sure exactly where, but there definitely are bald eagles in Charlotte.
Ollie's Pond.
Pardon?
Ollie's Pond.
Oh, Holly's Pond. Okay, great. See, this is why birders know where everything is. So if you're looking for a bird, yeah, reach out to your birding community.
Where at in Ollie's Pond?
Pardon me?
I said, where at in Ollie's Pond? What area?
I guess the north side in the tall pines. There's no nest, but I've seen the eagle there.
Thank you.
Great, guys. Do you have any questions? And again, I'm happy to answer anything for you. I'll send an email out with the further information on both the Merlin and the Ebird, so you guys can look at that for entering your data.
Alexis,
Yeah.
I just had a comment to add to the rodent control. When I read online or on the TV, I saw on TV that an eastern screech owl was caught in a glue trap. I feel it's important for the public to be aware of how inhumane that is for any creature at all.
Yeah.
To be, people should avoid glue traps for rodent control. And perhaps we can even go further and ask the big box stores to take it off their shelves.
Thank you, Robin. I completely agree. It's there are other ways to control rodents, and glue traps are definitely my least favorite. It's a horrible way to go. And I believe the Von Arx Wildlife Rehab Center down in Naples at the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, they're doing a big campaign about glue traps right now because they've seen owls, they've seen grackles, they've been getting a lot of birds in this year that are stuck in glue traps. So thank you for that. It's a good reminder.
Yeah, and if you have these birds of prey or snakes or anything like that, they're actually taking care of your rodents anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
and it keeps them hanging around your house, the birds of prey. So that's the best part, is they're their own rodenticides.
Absolutely.
Alex, is there a way to look at for people to look at pictures, or does about the Ebird app, does it have pictures in it, or can you upload those? Is that another helpful thing in there?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So when you download the bird pack with Ebird, it will give you all the different bird species in your area. So you can sit there and look through them, find out about their behavior, their calls. The Cornell website is also a great resource if you're on your computer. You can just type in what bird you think it is, and it'll give all the photos, life history, calls. Yeah. Thanks, Nicole.
Should we be just using one way to submit our sightings? For instance, you've mentioned birdcount.org, there's Merlin, and there's Ebird. Is it confusing, or are you entering more than once if you use the different sites?
I would recommend that you only use one. So if you're more comfortable doing it online, then I would go to birdcount.org. If you want to do it from your phone, then you can use Merlin or Ebird. I would do either or, just because you don't want to have excess data.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure. All right, guys. Well, that's it for me. I really appreciate you spending your Saturday morning with me learning about birds and participating in the Great Backyard Bird Count. And another thing that I do know is that you can look up the real-time data. So if you're interested, say next week, how did the bird count go for my area? You can go and look up the data that was submitted during the Great Backyard Bird Count. And I'll also provide that link as well.
Oh, good. That would be interesting.
Thank you so much. It was interesting.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.